This is one of those ducks whose mother must have played to it in infancy upon the German flute. The sweet strains of the dulcet instrument acted with such effect upon the infant mind.
Put it back. Put it back.
Will you come with me then? And I'll show you how the kings of Ireland cut off the head of a duck. Come on. Come on now. Come on now. Come on. Come on now. Come on. Come on. Come on. You haven't got any teeth.
Put it back.
The head, only when it serves as a medium of wholly affirming, rightly opposing the domination of wholly denying in the body, is worthy of being called the head of a real man. People today rarely have an idea about such head of a real man and what it can do, as they continue to see only the examples of a head that has developed itself as an instrument for the body. However intellectually developed it may appear, it only serves the downward flow of life as admitted by Darwin in his final days, as he confessed in his diary, and also by Einstein, wanting to be a plumber if he was to live again. People who have not developed beyond Saul into the left half of the Enneagram inevitably live under the domination of so-called mind, the functioning of which is bound to have a negative connotation because it operates under the law of necessity, survival logic. Development beyond Saul depends on the change of polarities assumed by the three centers shown on the left side of the Enneagram, marked by the affirmative functioning of the head surpassing pulls from survival logic. For this to happen, the protective influence that enters into the Enneagram at down right, after me, must give way to the provocative influence entering into the Enneagram at down left, after Saul. In the life of Jesus, the first protective influence is represented by Maria, while the second provocative influence is represented by John the Baptist. Maria, the Notre Dame, and John the Baptist represent two opposing sources of influence in the life of Jesus, the first protective and the second provocative. As they are of opposite quality, there must have been a strong opposition between them apart from respect to one another. In fact, how can the mother remain undisturbed by a teacher who provoked her son on his way to crucifixion? in the course of which, he himself, the son, also seems to have struggled against her influence as suggested by some violent statements he is reported to have made in relation to her. When I wrote this on my book on the Enneagram, 2017, I did not know that it was indeed an essential part of Orthodox Christian faith in the East, represented by the iconographic presentation of a trinity formed by John the Baptist, Maria, and Jesus. A few years after that, while traveling in Georgia, I found the first example of such representation of Trinity in an old church in the Caucasus. Later, I found similar examples in Georgia, Armenia, and Greece. Cathedral of Notre Dame in Amiens, the biggest cathedral in France built around the worship of what is claimed to be the decapitated head of John the Baptist. An item purchased and brought from Turkey. Despite the grandeur of construction and its interior full of symbolism and allusions to stories from the Bibles, the cathedral seemed hollow of meaning and empty of faith like in many other cathedrals in the Western Europe, probably because of the mixed-up, apparently confused giving of worships first to Maria, the Notre Dame, second to Jesus, and third to the decapitated head of John the Baptist. A strange presentation of the Christian faith, something similar to confusion of sexes. A painting by Masaccio at the Basilica di Santa Maria Novella in Firenze presents the Trinity formed of John the Baptist, Maria, and Jesus along with the more commonly known representation of Trinity in terms of Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. It seems likely that, beyond this point in the westward propagation of Christian faith, the open transmission of real knowledge about the significance of Trinity, the law of three, came to an end and went underground. The worshipping of the head of John within a cathedral dedicated to Notre Dame, the Mother, might be seen to have a potentially ominous implication not only because it seems to present things in a perverted order, but also because it makes one think of Salome appreciating the decapitated head of John, served to her on a silver plate, in a plot involving her mother. The story of an unicorn being hunted for his horn with the help of a lady who succeeds in approaching him is evidently another version of the same story, which some of us have seen repeated in front of their eyes. 1. A unicorn seems to be having fun. Let's hunt him. 2. Let me help. I will approach him. 3. Attack. 4. The unicorn captured for having his horn cut off. As suggested by the story of Lohengrin, Knight of the Swan, who finally escapes from captivity by a lady to whom he foolishly married, this can be the story of every couple. A woman falls in love with a man because of his manhood, but once she captures him, starts cutting off his horn to bring him under her submission. As this is repeated in a massive scale, all real men disappear from the world, leaving women in despair, as depicted in a story titled At the Bay by Katherine Mansfield, who nevertheless continued her search for a real man until she finally found one, like some other similarly positioned women did after a decade, forming a so-called lesbian group around him. decapitation of Rene Descartes happened to his body after his death that could be from poisoning. But yet it is comparable to the beheading of John the Baptist in that his real status has been ignored by church, scholars, and more largely the mass. I think, therefore I am. This statement is usually accepted by people too much as a matter of fact, as if they all possessed such I that could think actively in opposition to biases from the body, which has every reason to deceive the head, as Descartes explained in his discourse on methodological doubting. Lacking such capability of thinking, only me exists, not I. It is relatively little known that Rene Descartes, after making the statement of I am, went further, in his next book titled Meditations, to state that this realization of I am leads to a conviction in that God exists. His discourse on the working of the third eye and its connection with the heart center and the circulation of invisible breath demonstrates his status as mystic and meditator. In spite of such accomplishment, or as a result of vengeance it provoked, the headless body of Rene Descartes is unceremoniously preserved in the Church of Saint-Germain-des-Prés in Paris, marked by a plate bearing his name, above which is the head statue of not him but someone else called Mabillon. The Church continues to punish a man who believed in the divine power of reason with which he tried to penetrate the mystery of world creation and maintenance. Put his head back. Further discourses by Descartes on the subject of active mentation, methodological doubting, and the affirming of I am in Meditations were disastrously reviewed by Thomas Hobbes before these ideas were attacked by criticisms on pure reason by Immanuel Kant with biases from David Hume, based on a common belief that mind is opposed to feeling. This could have been quite true for what they knew as their mind and feeling, but certainly not for men like Descartes. Probably only Gurdjieff, in his praise of objective reason in his book, Beelzebub's Tales to his grandson, and the recapturing of the statement I am, correctly evaluated the significance of these ideas. Standing opposite the Church of Saint-Germain that keeps the headless body of Descartes, Café der Maggots served as a meeting place for Solita Solano, Catherine Hulme and others before they marched across Paris to Gurdjieff's apartment. It was in their lodging they had on Rue Bonaparte, a few hundred meters away, that Gurdjieff resumed his work in France after a long blank in 1935 by starting a series of readings from Beelzebub's Tales to his grandson. It seems strange that scholars do not pay more attention to the spiritual training Descartes received from the Jesuits as a background of mysticism behind his philosophy. In fact, what he wrote in his book on Meditations is comparable to what Ignatius wrote in his book on spiritual exercises. These exercises are believed to have been conceived by Ignatius from his personal experience of spirit opposing body as he endured extreme pains from tortuous surgeries that he underwent after being wounded in a battle in Pamplona, developed with advices from Benedictine monks he met in Montserrat, and refined as he meditated in a cave in its foothill, which I visited in 2022. Catherine Hulme must have felt something about these things as she approached the Jesuits after the death of Gurdjieff. Something parallel to what has been described happened also to the transmission of Gurdjieff's ideas to the West as, in the dogmatic interpretation of his ideas by P.D. Ouspensky and Maurice Nicoll, a normal, common-sense understanding about the law of three seems to be missing. It is demonstrated by their psychological approach that is based on assertions such as, man has the right not to be negative, and, there is no reason that man should have negative emotions because there is no center for that. A man with more sensibility about the law of three would say instead that our body has all reasons for being turned into a source of negativity, while the head has all reasons for wanting to liberate feeling from the domination of such negativity.
fair sister in wedlock.
Tell me, what is the difference between my life and that of an ordinary prisoner?
Did you choose it?
Thou cruel. But thou speakest sooth. Yes, I put myself in jail. Nobody's ever going to let me out. I'm like an insect that's flown into a room of its own accord. Dash against the windows, flop against the ceiling, do anything on God's earth, in fact, except fly.
Like that, why don't you?
Ah, there you have me. Why indeed? Why don't I fly out again? And there's the window or the door, not hopelessly shut, is it? Why don't I find it and be off? I've got the two boys to provide for, but after all, they're boys. Weak. No stamina. No anchor. No guiding principle.
Without a sane grasp of the law of three, one cannot work practically on oneself. He is weak, lacks a guiding principle, and cannot get out of the prison of so-called life. It is like the state of a man trying to fix a machine without knowing how it works. The utter failure of P.D. Ouspensky in following his own idea of controlling negative emotions is vividly recorded by Marie Seaton, his secretary. His pride in having developed the power of the thinking center is very mistaken. In fact, like J. Krishnamurti, he had been seriously handicapped in the power of thinking. Maurice Nichols states that Gurdjieff wanted him and other intellectuals to work more with their bodies because their intellectual centers had already been sufficiently developed. What a curious interpretation. The reality must have been that they had to start working with the body because they had not developed a head that was capable of rightly standing opposed to the body. Which, however, does not mean enmity to the body but the beginning of a normal relation to the body, which the body longs for. Gurdjieff, you know that working with your body you could sooner or later succeed. The head does not exist for you yet, it is the result of the body. Head is body. Questioner. With the body I see what to do, not with the head. Gurdjieff, work with the body. For your body. Questioner. You seem to ignore the head. Gurdjieff. If the body changes, the head will change. With another body, another head. If you feel that you already can do something with your body, continue it. The head shall follow the body. May 25, 1944.